At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. Episode 104. I am one of your hosts this week, Professor Chris G, and on the other line with me is my sewer junkie friend. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing?
You ain't gonna catch me in no damn sewer.
Well, I would have said that about Ash and them, but shit happened and life happened.
Well, no, I'm not surprised at Ash. Ash doesn't seem to have many standards.
Well, what about Tracy and Missy?
I think they were mostly making sure he didn't get killed because then they have to explain themselves to Mrs. Ketchum.
And to the Pokemon
audience. And to the Pokemon audience, and to Mr. Mime, and to Oak, and... Yeah.
It's not good. Not good.
No, it's and there was some very shady practices in this episode.
Yeah, just a little bit. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But how are you doing, bro? We're doing 2 episodes, 2 days in a row. And this is obviously the episode after Grant from last week. So how have you been?
I'm cold.
You're cold?
I'm cold because this weather is a flip-flopping mess, and I get no consistency, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, well, just be glad that, we are kind of in the middle, but just be glad you're not all the way up north from what happened earlier this week up north, because they got a lot of snow. And I'm sorry to all of our northern buddies that had to go to work, and you literally had the Weather Channel saying, if you don't have to leave your house, don't. And then live on broadcast TV, and I saw this happen. And I mean, it's not funny to the person that it happened to, but they had a newscaster, right? And the newscaster was, I believe this was in New York, and she was literally live on air talking about the snow, and a car lost traction and literally crashed right in front of her. And they turned the camera, and it hit like a little tree, and like the person inside the car was fine, but it hit a little tree, and the tree fell, and the tree started tumbling down the side of the road, like on a slant, and they had to like kind of go into save mode, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And they ran over, and yeah, it was a mess a few days ago as of this recording, bro.
The anchor was okay, yes?
Yes.
Good.
The accident happened in front of her.
Okay.
So like she was literally talking, and a car slid and just lost traction and hit the tree and the barricade, and just fun stuff.
Gotcha. Well, obviously, because that's a whole different news story, because and I would like to know the protocol for like you're in a newsroom and you're like going through stuff, and you're like, well, it's a big storm, get your coat on, Suzanne, and get out there. And it's like, well, God,
I don't want to go out there just like you don't.
I mean, is it a matter of seniority? I mean, can we send Billy? Because I mean, I've seen the clips of the weather stations and stuff when the poor anchors are out there like in Florida and stuff like, and they're like hugging fucking palm trees as they're getting blown away because they're reporting in the middle of a hurricane.
I just like your idea. Let's send Billy. I don't want to go.
Yeah, Billy's expendable.
So, um, something that I
But
we
how are you? But how are you? I always feel like you get the jump on me every week, and I don't come back around.
I'm great, and I'm even better because I got some Power World news that I can talk about on the show. I know this is not a Power World a Power World podcast, but I feel like we talk about it enough now. Well, at least I do. Power World is about to get a huge update, and
Are they finally getting pushed out of early access?
I don't know. That hasn't been confirmed, but I did read that the makers or the creators of the game are about to put out a huge update, which includes more islands. So they're about to expand on the big islands that we already have in the game, and we're getting new pals in the game, and
Oh,
and we're getting raid battles and person versus person. And the best thing to ever happen to frickin' um Pal World, we're finally getting Xbox and Steam. You If you have either system, you can play your game, and it's going to be
oh, nice.
and it's going to be cross compatible, which is amazing. I cannot freaking wait because right now I'm playing on my Steam Deck, and I'm playing on my TV too because I have the Game Pass on my TV, but I'm playing on the Steam Deck on Game Pass as well. So I mean, if I have the app natively downloaded, but I'm so much further on Xbox than I am on Steam. So the fact that I can kind of use both at that point without having to do like any remote settings is amazing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I feel like as we get further into 2024, um, cross compatibility, whether it's you know jumping whether a gamer is going say from a PS4 to a PS5 or Xbox to Xbox X or even cross-platform stuff I mean that's coming along at a bit slower rate, but it's coming along.
Yep.
I mean that's a little bit more tricky to navigate because you've got your Microsoft account over here versus your PSN over here, and the day we get those to sync up, because like I know, like when I bought the latest Madden, so this is September, when it came out. When I was booting it up, there was a box I could check to allow like cross-platform opponents,
Okay.
and everybody and their mother was like, "Don't check this box because PC players are some son of a bitches." Because you can mod that shit on PC a lot easier than it is to mod on the console.
Absolutely.
And
So
I'm like, I'll just stick to playing my PlayStation brethren. I got nothing against Xbox people, and I got nothing against PC people, but y'all know you be sneaky.
I know. And let me see. I do. Oh, frick. I forgot that this was today. I was thinking it was tomorrow as of this recording. So let me see if I can get the updates on here. Actually, I'm probably going to have to. Let's see. I'm gonna have to wait until we're done. Let's see. The future of Xbox has been revealed, and I cannot. Okay, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to watch this thing after we're done doing the podcast. So we finally got an update on what the hell is going on with Xbox. So, and it looks like I'm going to be watching this real soon.
Yeah, because I know, because you sent me something and you liked your own damn text message, which I didn't know
Yeah,
you could do.
I know. I was like, yeah, look, let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see. Four Xbox games announced for other consoles, not Starfield or Indiana Jones. No plans to fundamentally change Xbox exclusive strategy. Xbox team excited and want to learn from making these titles multi-platinum. Diablo 4 is coming to Xbox Game Pass. I just paid for this game. Xbox Game Pass now has 34 million subscribers. Exciting hardware news will be revealed and maybe released in holiday of 2024. Xbox plans to deliver the largest technical leap ever in next hardware generation.
Oh, nice.
So, and I did read on here actually as of right now. So it looks like people that have or the people that used to make the old Xbox designs have kind of been shifted away, and a brand new team is going to be in charge of designing the next Xbox. So it looks like we're headed in a good direction. So Xbox is not going away like I thought that they were as of about a week ago. So
I didn't think they were going away. The word that kept coming up in stuff that I was seeing was they were shifting their focus away from
hard
console gaming.
yes.
Hardware, yes.
So and that they were going to be going to streaming.
And they were going to start really pushing like Xbox Game Pass and stuff.
Someone in Sony was like, let's start a big rumor and have them get forced to say something.
Well,
And
it's freaking Pow World. It's like they weren't going to Pokemon Company wasn't going to acknowledge it, but then people just kept poking at Pokemon Company on Twitter. Like, you gonna say something? You gonna say something? They're coming after your IP. Like, no, they're not.
no, they're not. It's just a different game. If we haven't taken Digimon down, we can't take this down.
If we haven't taken Digimon down.
So, all right. Well, today's episode is episode 104 and it's titled The Mystery Menace, or translated from Japanese, Monster in the Sewers, and premiered June 24th, 1999 in Japan and May 2000 here in the States, everyone. So, um, yeah, this I actually finally bit the bullet. I know Pokemon TV is going away, so I just went and I'm paying $2.99 a month now on Amazon just to watch these damn episodes. But I guess in the long haul it's gonna be worth it because I don't want to have to not have subtitles when doing a Pokemon episode.
Yeah, and you can call me stubborn, you can call me names, you can call me whatever. I'm trying to wean myself off of them
Okay.
because I feel like, and this is probably an off podcast discussion, but here we are. I feel like, and I'm just as guilty of it as anybody. I feel like if I'm watching an episode and I see the subtitles, my tendency is to read the subtitles as
Yes.
opposed to try to just kind of explain the scene and, broad strokes. And we've done a couple episodes without them. I mean, we were in a similar situation last week, except you had it because you were um, forward thinking enough to download the Pokemon TV app. So I think you have access to it till the end of March.
Yes.
But I took them by their word, and I thought, and I missed the part where they were like, "Oh, the shit's gonna shut down at the beginning of the year," and I didn't think anything of it, and then went to go on and watch Wherefore Art Thou Pokemon, and they were like, "No," and I was like, "Oh,
And I tried going to like a back door, and that didn't work either.
no." I hate it when they close the back door on you.
I know.
For goodness sake, especially, I mean, it's just after Valentine's Day. For goodness sake.
So, all right. So, are you ready to jump on into the episode?
Yes,
All right.
I had a momentary panic, and again, this is probably an off podcast discussion, but as we were in, as we were kind of getting into the intro and stuff, and we were discussing, the plight of Xbox, I got a pop up saying I have no space,
Oh,
and it stopped my recording. So I was like quickly like scrambling to get rid of like years old files.
that's funny. That's funny. You really kept an archive over there, bro.
Yeah, well, they're gone. Well, they're not gone. They're in the recycle bin now, but so I'm not going to I'm not going to clear out my recycle bin cuz it'll be about that time and you'll be like, "What about that episode we recorded a couple years ago at Thanksgiving?" I thought, "Fuck."
You're like, crap about that. So,
I had it once,
uh,
but yeah.
all
So,
right.
technology.
I know it's fun when it wants to work. So, all right, everyone, if you are following at home, I am starting up the episode as of right now. I don't know how you'd be watching it. Maybe on a Flix website that has Pokemon on
Hmm.
it. Just a hint on a Flix site that has Pokemon. Just take the hint, everybody. But if you're if you're following at home, we're getting ready to start this episode up as of right now, and um, our heroes are walking. It looks like they're walking in the middle of a desert. They are leaving the sites of last week, and Ash is his stomach is growling, and he's like, you know what? Why don't we just stop and eat?
Hey, if you guys are feeling hungry, we can stop and eat if you want.
That's all you ever think about.
Hey!
What, Tracy?
Come over here and take a look!
Our heroes have finally arrived at the city of Trovitopolis. Everything seems normal, but beneath the surface, a secret lurks.
And from here, we have Jesse, James, and Meowth looking over a what looks like just part of the road that our heroes were just traveling on, and they're looking down at our heroes, and Jesse's like, just look at them, admiring the view. They have no idea that they're headed for our new plan. And Meowth is like, we finally came up with a plan for the perfect pit. And yes, everybody, it's another pit episode because this is pit number 1246 on episode 104. And Meowth goes, he's like, first we dug the hole and planted the dynamite, and we get like a little picture of Pikachu with a hole dug under it with some dynamite stuck to the top, which I wanna know something real quick. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they dug a hole, right?
Right.
It has dynamite on it, right?
Right.
How did they get that dynamite to stick upwards? Eh,
Stick upwards. What?
So I'm on like 208 where the picture of Pikachu with the dynamite sticking to the top part of the dug hole.
Right.
So how did
Well, you
how
see, I have an answer for you. I have an answer for you. I thought about this
okay.
because I was wondering the same thing.
and
And
and how they got out with it still sticking there?
and I was wondering this, and I was sitting there, and I was on freeze frames, and I was kind of looking, and finally it hit me, and I felt silly.
What's that?
It's a cartoon.
Actually, and I just did some thinking right now. I have a better solution.
Okay.
And I'm dumb. Maybe they dug that hole, planted it, and then just walked through the sewer and came out.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, that would make so much more sense.
And they just patched that little piece right there.
Yeah, there you go.
But I just thought about that right now as you were saying that. I honestly I thought you were about to say that before I said
No, I had that
it.
loaded up. I was like, it's a kids show. It's a cartoon.
That is funny. And Meowth is like, first we dug a hole and planted the dynamite. And then he's like, right underneath where Pikachu is, bang! All we have to do is push this button and the ground collapse and we get Pikachu trapped. And he's like, I think we can say without fear that we completely and totally prepared. And Jesse and James are like, well, they start doing the damn motto. And Meowth is like, we don't have time for the damn motto. And he's like,
Start doing it.
and, and James is like, why did you stop us from doing our motto? And he's like, what do you want to give those little brats fair warning for? Let's make this a sneak attack. And James like, well, you didn't have to be so rough. And he's like, here goes nothing. And he presses the detonator button, but nothing happens. And they're like, where's the explosion? And then all of a sudden, they're standing on top of the hole that they dug, and they fall straight through it. So they forgot where they had planted the dynamite. And all of a
Where's the explosion?
and the boom. There's supposed to be a big
Kaboom!
kaboom. Where's the kaboom?
Is it bad that I thought of that probably about the same time you did, but I also thought of it in reference to the AEW exploding barbed wire death match?
No joke. Someone on Instagram made a video of the Japan exploding barbed wire death match and the ending of that, and then was like, oh man. And then it was like, up next is AEW's version of the exploding barbed wire death match, and he's like, oh man, they have to do it better. And then they went straight to the ending and you just saw the little sparklers, and he's like, what the hell is this? Kaboom. And then you hear the announcers go, and there was a big explosion. And there was nothing but little sparklers going off in the ring.
I think I saw that exact same video you did. You might have sent it to me. No, I don't know if you did or you might have sent it to me.
I might have sent it to you.
I think you did. Now that I'm saying that.
And Misty's looking around and she's like, huh? What's the matter, Misty? And she's like, I thought I just heard somebody scream. Ash's like, really? Why would anybody be screaming? James goes. And then all of a sudden, boom! Ah! And they start falling down the hole. and they fall straight through, and they are now inside of a tunnel. And I'm going to hand this on over to you, my brother.
So they fall through the hole, and like you said, this isn't their first rodeo. And, Pikachu wakes up first because, the mascot can't be hurt. And he goes over to Ash and, it's kind of like, hey,
Wake up.
wake up, champ. We got to kind of get our bearings figured out. And, Ash wakes up and, oh, Pikachu, you're okay. And Pikachu is like, yup, just, doing my job. And then they do a terrifying shot of Togepi trying to wake up Misty. And, like, you could see, like, kind of fear in Togepi's eyes. That's haunting.
Yeah, just a
Because
little
all
bit.
Togepi is just a little baby egg, but thankfully Misty wakes up and Togepi's like, oh, God. And poor Tracy is stuck at about waist high in a rock. And
Yeah.
he said, and
What did he say?
I'm not going to do it again. That's what they made.
People replay that because that was funny.
That's what they make rewind buttons for. And so they go over and they go, here's Tracy sticking his head in rocks over, and Ash and Pikachu and Misty pull Tracy out, and they Togepi playing cheerleader, and he's like, I was really stuck there, wasn't I? And he's like, thanks, Ash. And Ash is like, well, you don't have to thank me, Tracy, but you can get off of me anytime. Because in the motion of Tracy getting out of the hole, Tracy ends up sitting on poor Ash. And Tracy's like, oh, no sweat. And Pikachu's like, well, here we go again. And Misty's kind of looking around like, what do you think happened? And so they just go walking, pardon me, like through this tunnel, like under the city.
What is this place?
I guess it must be the sewer.
Well, we're in luck then. All we have to do now is find a manhole cover and climb out of here.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Come on, let's look for one.
Pika, Pika!
Did you guys just hear a little bell ringing?
Not me.
Maybe your ears are still ringing from that fall.
It's at this point that they're walking through, and then all of a sudden, Ash feels stuff on his shoulder, and Tracy is like, you see a vine, and it looks like a Bulbasaur vine, and Ash is getting poked, and Tracy's like, it's just water dripping, Ash, and he's getting poked even more, and it's at this point that he's like, will you stop it, Pikachu? And he looks behind him, and he's like, there's nothing there. And Pikachu's like, P? And Pikachu is literally standing right in front of him. And he's like, wait, Pikachu, you're right in front of me? And Pikachu's like, yes. And he's like, then what was behind me? And they, Tracy and Misty see a big vine. And Misty's like, there's a giant monster right behind you. And they all
Misty has no chill.
I know. And
never has had any.
You would honestly think that Ash having a Bulbasaur for as long as he's had a Bulbasaur for would understand that looks like a Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, or Venusaur vine. And obviously it's not a Venusaur because its big plant is not coming out of the water. And it could be an Ivysaur depending on how deep that water is, or a Bulbasaur. And Ash is like, you know what, Pikachu? Thunder shock it. And Pikachu is like, is like, all right, I'm gonna go and shock this thing. And Misty is like, if you use an electric attack here, we're all going to get shocked too. And Ash is like, oh, you're right. He's like, I choose you, Bulbasaur. And out comes Bulbasaur. You want to take it from here, brother?
Yeah, so he tells his Bulbasaur to use Vine Whip, but the Sea Creature, because I think we have to play that game, even with the benefit of hindsight, the Sea Creature takes Bulbasaur and under the water, and you see bubbles, and you're like, "Oh my God, Bulbasaur!" And they're calling after it, and all of a sudden the bubbles stop. So Ash is like, "Oh my God, I gotta go in and um, I gotta grab my Bulbasaur." And they're like, "No, Ash, if you go down, the monster could grab you too." And Ash is like, "I'm not that monster. Just take my Bulbasaur," which I mean, fucking fair. Um, and he's
I mean,
ranting and raving
I was about to say he does have a point. Would you let something take your Pokemon that you've had all year?
all year. Has it only? It's been longer than that.
Well, Pokemon years, you have to go like 10,000 days just to get a year. So yeah, so far all year he's had this Bulbasaur.
I mean, if we're using that, like the Simpsons kids have been 8 and 10 for 36 years.
I know.
Um, but he's ranting and raving, talking about I'm not gonna let, and they're like, we have to, and then happenstance of happenstance, um, Officer Jenny just happens to open a manhole and poke her head down, and then, what's going on down there? And Tracy's like, it's Officer Jenny, and no shit, and she's like, how'd you get down here? And he's like, we get, we fell in a hole a way back. And she's like, don't move. I'll send a rope down. And um, Ash is like, that monster took my Bulbasaur, and I'm not gonna, you know. And she sends the rope down, and the next time we see um Ash, he's being drug up to the surface, and he's got so much rope around him. He looks he's in a caterpie cocoon,
For real.
which
I was about to make the same analogy.
I call bullshit because she didn't send that much rope down.
Hey. It's a kids show.
Yep. And they didn't anticipate people sitting here on a podcast, 30 years later, pausing it and scrutinizing every frame.
I know.
So, they get back to the surface, and she's like, or they're like, what's yeah. She's like, what? No, they didn't get. They get immediately thrown in jail, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
And
get immediately thrown in jail, and um, Ash is sitting there. He's like, "Let us out! I gotta get my Bulbasaur." And Tracy and Misty are just sitting on a bench, going, "This is a bit of an overreaction. We didn't really do anything." And um, the door opens, and she's like, "You're free to go." And Tracy's like, "That was quick." And there's not one mention of I'm gonna get my lawyer, which I'd be screaming to high heaven. I'd be like, "You can't detain me. This is unlawful detainment."
I know.
And
Ba-
um,
Basically, I mean, Officer Jenny, she's like, well, we've had some strange things happening all around this city, and then in comes Mr. Trouble himself, the mayor.
does the mayor have a name? He does.
Yeah. Well, Officer Jenny calls him Mr. Mayor, so he doesn't have a name yet. But yes, he does have a name. And they're like, Mr. Mayor, and Jenny is like, Sir, um, they told me that they only arrived in town today, and that they're on their way to the Pokemon Gym on Travolta Island, and their story does check out. And the mayor's like, yeah, you know what? I can't have this thing leaking out just yet. Better keep them locked up till next week. And Jenny is like, Mayor, I can't hold them if they're not being charged with a crime.
Sir, they told me that they only arrived in town today, and they're on their way to the Pokemon Gym on Travita Island, and their story checks out.
I can't have this thing leaking out yet. Better keep them locked up till next week.
I can't hold them if they're not charged with a crime, Mr. Mayor.
Well, if that's the law, but I forbid you to say a word to anyone about that creature.
You can't do that. Why can't we say anything about it if it's the truth?
Well, all I care about is getting my Bulbasaur back. It must be hungry and scared. Who knows what kind of creepy...
Say another word and I'll have you all arrested for endangering public safety.
What do you mean, public safety?
That creature, you're not the only ones who saw it.
Officer, don't.
Mr. Mayor, we can't keep this a secret forever.
Can't we at least try?
Officer Jenny is like, there's been multiple reports of a creature reaching out of the sewer, and the same thing happened today. And then we go to a flashback. Do you want to go over the flashback, Doug?
Yeah, just let me get caught up here. And we see this little run in with this poor unsuspecting pizza man, and they're like, boy, it must have been hungry. And he's like, I'm more concerned about the safety of, the entire city, not just one, wayward pizza boy. And he's like, I've got this re-election to think about, and if word gets out that I'm letting a sea monster run amok, what's that gonna do for my re-election chances? What's that gonna do for my public sentiment? I'll be ruined. And
and the election is next week.
Which is why he just wanted to leave Ash, Tracy, and Misty in jail, because then they wouldn't be they wouldn't be causing any trouble. They'd be out of the public eye. And Misty's like, well, you kind of got to feel bad for the poor creature. All it wants to do is eat. And Togepi's sitting there going, I love to eat. And then Nurse Joy just pops in, and she's like, I heard what you intended to do to the sewers, and you can't be doing that. And Tracy has an all-timer line because he does the exact same thing he did when Jenny popped up. He goes, it's Nurse Joy. He's on the ball today, boy.
I know. And she comes in and she's talking about how the mayor wants to send a SWAT team over into the sewer to destroy whatever monster is down there. And Missy's like, that's pretty cruel. And she's like, what if a whole new species of Pokemon is down there? Tracy goes. And he's like, any talks of such plans is pure speculation. There's no proof. And Officer Jenny is like, she's like, you know what? The police don't know anything about this plan. And he's like, you know what? Enough. I am the mayor and I'm the one who is responsible for the city, and I will do as I see fit. And we jump straight from there all the way over to the Pokemon Center. And this is when Ash is talking to Professor Oak. You got this part?
they're on the phone with Oak in the Pokemon Center, and Oak is sitting there, and um, he's like, Tracy's making some good points. This could be a new species of Pokemon. And, you know, what the mayor's planning to do is short sighted, and it's a shame to the community of Pokemon, and he's like, what about when you were at the island and all the Pokemon were being mutated by the fruit? I mean, we could be dealing with that kind of situation because you don't know how long it's been now, been underground, and with, like, I mean, obviously knowing what we know, right? Because we have the hindsight of the whole episode, right?
Yes.
So without without knowing it, Oak is kind of nailing this shit.
Yeah, he is. And it's at this point that Professor Oak, he's like, there's got to be some way to prevent the mayor from exterminating this creature. And Officer Jane, she's like, I don't know. The only thing the mayor cares about is getting reelected. And
So we've got to run against him.
and he's not going to let anything stand in that way. And we go to an outside shot, and all throughout the city, all you see are pictures of the mayor all throughout the city. And Missy's like, oh, Nurse Joy is right. Look at all these campaign posters. And then we go, and the mayor has a whole statue of him in the city. And Ash and Misty and Tracy just walk over to it, and Missy's like, I wonder what this thing is. It was on all the posters too, and it's showing the mayor's marking logo that's on the statue, which is on all the posters. And Ash is like, come on, guys, we can't worry about the mayor right now. We got to find Bulbasaur and get it away from that creature. And they're like, yeah, right. And it's at this point that the mayor is talking to the SWAT team, just like everyone was predicting.
All right, it's time to begin the operation. As you know, the safety of our citizens and my future as your leader are in your hands. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Good! Go get that thing!
How are we gonna get in with them covering the entrance?
There'll be guards everywhere now.
We've got to find some way to get into that sewer before they do. Because if we don't, it'll be the end of that creature and Bulbasaur.
And this is when we get a Who's That Pokemon. This week, it's Zapdos. But for what reason?
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah, why? Why? I mean,
Just
did they already? I mean, they've obviously done Bulbasaur because Bulbasaur was the focus of that episode when they find the Bulbasaur Sanctuary.
Yes.
So why? I'm like, did they must have just thrown a dart and they said we haven't done the legendary birds.
Yeah, let's do the legendary birds right now.
Like we is, but that's about it.
And it's at this point that Nurse Joy shows our heroes to a small corner where they can go into the tunnel to get into the sewer so that they can save Bulbasaur. And she's like, maybe you can go in through here and find your Bulbasaur. And Tracy's like, yeah, you know what? Thank you. And Ash is like, all right, let's go. And Ash tries to climb up, and he falls straight on his butt because he's not tall enough to grab the top of the ledge to climb all the way up to get into this little tunnel. And this is when we jump straight from that to Team Rocket inside of the sewer. And I'm going to hand this part on over to you, brother.
And they're starving, and they've they're exhausted, and you know, Meowth for once kind of the voice of reason. He's like, forget about food, what about natural sunlight and um, you know, I've forgotten what the outside world looks like,
And they've only been in there a couple hours.
and they're sitting there, and then all of a sudden, well, hey man, a couple hours make you go stir crazy.
Yeah, it does.
I'll I'll tell you what. Next time I see you, I'll put you in a sewer, and I'll leave it for like half a day,
Well, I
and
know
and, and we'll see.
I know you're gonna come back for me, so I'll be fine.
Maybe I forget.
Well,
Maybe I get busy.
I mean, I am tall. I know how to get out of a sewer. I'm not
Yeah,
just
you're not brain dead like Team Rocket. But there's
no.
three of them. There'd only be one of you. I don't know. There are three. Them three putting their heads together. I don't think quite gets to one regular human. Um. So they're pretty dejected, and then um they're kind of sitting there, and they got their eyes closed, and all of a sudden we see a flash, and then we see a vine, the telltale vine, is kind of scratching under Meowth's chin, and he's like, "Oh, that's nice, but it's not going to cheer me up." And um um they're sitting there, and um
Meowth has a line, and he's like, you know what? That feels really nice, but no matter how much you pet me, it won't get rid of my hunger pains. And James like, petting you? That isn't me. And Meowth is like, that's nice. And they look up and they all see the vine coming out of the water.
and they take off, like something out of Scooby Doo. They just freaking don't even think. They just start running, and they're like, James, what is that horrible thing? And, um, James is like, I don't know, Jesse, but if we ever find out, or no, that's not what he says. Fine, and I just stepped all over it. He's like, I don't know, Jesse, and I never ever want to find out. And um, and the freaking the monster. It's so hard to not call it what it is. Um,
We know what it is, but we don't have that hindsight with our audience. But yeah, the creature is doing a number on them.
and all of a sudden, they see a shadow, which is our heroes, and um, they're petrified, and James's solution is to call out Wheezing, because Wheezing, in his words, will take care of this. Why? How? Why not
Well,
a snake? Because like,
Well, I mean, he did have a good idea. So what he had Wheezing come out and use smoke screens. So what if the monster was right there? Because they saw a flashing light, so they thought it was a monster, but it wasn't a monster. It was our heroes using a flashlight down inside of the sewer. So he used smoke screens so that they can get away, so the monster wouldn't get them, and that would give them enough time to run away and not have the monster catch up to them.
but that's asinine because you're still in a sewer with poor ventilation.
Yeah.
Much less the mayor's, what, maybe half an hour away from sealing everything the fuck up, which
And
has to be illegal, by the way. That can't.
oh, I know. Yeah, that 1000% is illegal.
Like, I was sitting there watching that episode, and I was like, I know this is a cartoon, and I know the mayor's supposed to be evil,
But this
but
can't be real.
that has to go against like public safety, right? Like,
Yes. Well, I mean, he has a way of doing it, and we'll get into that when we get just a little bit closer. But it's at this point, everybody, that our heroes are like, I thought I heard Team Rocket. And Ash is like, what would Team Rocket be doing down here in the sewer? Good question,
Which
Ash.
is a rational question. I was just about to say, yeah.
And Misty looks down. She's like, oh no, where did Togepi go? And Ash is like, don't you have it? Maybe the creature grabbed it just like it grabbed Bulbasaur. And they're looking
Don't you
around.
have it?
And Togepi's walking over to like a little mini waterfall that's in the sewer trying to grab the water. And Misty goes over and runs over and grabs it. He's like, you can't just wander off like that. Well, Togepi wouldn't wander off like that if you didn't put her down. Put it down. I mean, we don't know if it's a boy or girl, but we found
Did
out.
we ever find out? Oh, we do.
Yeah, it's a girl.
Oh, good.
Yep. And
Good.
we find out in later episodes. I forgot what season it was, but it turns into a Togetic. So, let's see. And Ash and Tracy are looking. They're like, look over there. And Tracy's like, Misty, right in front of you. And it's the vine again. And they all just start screaming. And it grabs Togepi. And Misty's like, you let go of Togepi. And she holds on to Togepi as she gets dragged into the sewer water, which can't be good for you. Just saying.
Hell no.
And it drags her underneath, and the bubbles go away. And Tracy's like, what do we do? We gotta save her, Ash. He's like, I knew we'd end up in a sewer, so I had Professor Oak send my secret weapon. Go!
This pissed me off so much, and it's irrational as hell, but it just makes me so mad because we know from, and I hate to keep sidetracking the show, but in a way, I think it's good because we're making up the length.
Yeah, we are.
But because we had this discussion during, I believe, the Krabby episode.
Yes.
If not, we had it when he was in the Elite Four and he brought in Muck to fight that Bellsprout. But we definitely had the discussion. We sat down and we figured out that he only carries 5 Pokemon as it is. Maybe 6, but I think we determined that Pikachu doesn't count because Pikachu doesn't go into a Pokeball.
Yes.
So this motherfucker is willfully around with an empty spot on his belt.
Yes, so he's able to use whatever Pokemon he captures.
But he doesn't.
I know.
And I'm not going to sit here and, give him a pat on the back for calling in his quote-unquote secret weapon when he shouldn't have to call anybody in.
Well, I mean, is he really going to take Muck out with him like full time? He has more than 6 Pokemon. He can't carry all of them.
Well, okay, maybe it doesn't have to be Muck. But, and I mean, if I sat here and got pissed off enough, I could kind of see why what he's doing is a good thing. But it still pisses me off. I mean, maybe it's because I got to a point in the Pokemon games where I basically had an open spot and I had an XP share, so I was basically just scumming the Elite Four. Just
well, I wish that would work, but I mean, there's nothing like that in the anime.
I know.
Which would be handy.
It would be, but then again, if there was something like a frickin' if there was a spamming method, Ash would have all evolved Pokemon.
Yes.
I mean, if he doesn't want to evolve Pikachu, fine, because Pikachu has an excuse because Pikachu would require a stone, and we saw way back in the Lieutenant Surge episode that Pikachu willingly chose to smack the stone out of Ash's hand.
I know. And
Um,
so Muck is out there, and Ash is like, "All right, let's go, Muck." And Muck just goes over, and Muck is so happy to see Ash because he never gets to see Ash that he goes over and just gives Ash the biggest hug. And Ash is like, "I'm glad you like me, but we have to save Misty and Togepi and Bulbasaur." And Muck is like, "All right." And this is when we go over to Team Rocket, who's taking a well deserved break from running away. You want to take this, brother?
and they're sitting there and they're exhausted because I think we're to assume that they've been, running since they saw, Ash and the crew. And, they're sitting there and they're like, what was that now? And Meowth is kind of fed up and he's like, you know what? There's three of us and, we'll fight fire with fire and we'll scare it. And so the way they do it is Jessie kind of takes her hair and covers her face. And frickin' James kind of takes Meowth as like a skull cap kind of thing, and he's got like a hey there. I'm doing it like people can fucking see me. Um,
He's wearing it like a skull hat.
yeah, and they go around the corner, and they're like that, and they are confronted with the SWAT team with freaking
Bazookas.
got bazookas drawn, mind you, which I was immediately flashed to the Safari Zone, but then they covered themselves because they don't have bullets in the bazookas. It's putty, you see.
Yes.
Which they could have easily said that the old man at the Safari Zone had a putty shotgun pointed at Ash's head.
They learned their lesson.
They learned their lesson. And no more Black Jinx.
No, they haven't.
That's
learned
dumb,
that
by the
lesson.
way.
They
No, they haven't. They haven't.
We just had that a few episodes ago. They haven't learned the lesson for that one yet.
Even for 5 seconds, they're like, nope, can't have it. So, one of the SWAT team fellas is like, we've cornered a creature, but it's not like the one that you've described, but it's definitely something. And the mayor's kind of sitting there. He's topside, and because obviously the mayor's not going to go in the sewer. That's silly.
No. Why do that when I can pay someone to do it?
He's like, 3 of them. This fucking thing's multiplying. Well, good work. Detain at all costs. And the guy's like, Roger. He's like, prepare and fire. And he's patum, patum, patum. And Team Rocket, takes off running because they're being bombarded with friggin' putty bombs. And we cut back to Ash and Tracy and Muck, and Muck is in the lead because Muck is being treated like a sewer bloodhound. And they stop, and Muck points, and he's like, down yonder. And they're like, they're down there, Muck? And Ash is like, all right. And they just jump in. They just, because what else are you going to do? And they don't have, and you might say, well, they're only, yay level in the sewer, but they don't have the breathing gimmicks that you get,
when you're
that you've seen earlier. There you go. So, and
it's at this point that they swim for what looks like for like 30 seconds underwater, and then they find an opening and they pop up, And Ash looks up, and the first thing he sees is a waving vine, and he's like, ah! And then we go up, and the mayor is talking to the SWAT team.
Sir, our team couldn't locate any creature that fit the original description, but we encountered 3 other creatures down there. Sir, for all we know, that sewer could be packed with those freaks. Oh, we have no choice. Close up every manhole and opening and seal that sewer shut.
And we go straight from that to a montage of all of the sewers getting locked away by wet cement. And they're just pouring the cement in, covering every last manhole inside, trapping our heroes in the sewer. And it's at this point that Misty, Ash, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, and because we do now see that it is a Bulbasaur, so we can say that now. And all of our heroes are down there, and they're like, "Oh, I was so afraid you might be hurt, but I'm so glad you're okay." And Bulbasaur is looking over at him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy." And then Tracy's like, "We found the monster that's down there." And they look over, and they see another Bulbasaur that has a chain on. And they're like, "Oh, it's a Bulbasaur, but it's twice its normal size, probably from living down here." And they're like, "Oh, it's just a big Bulbasaur using Vine Whip. But how would a Bulbasaur wind up in a place like this?" And Tracy's like, "I don't know, but it's not wild because it's wearing a collar." And everyone's like, "Somebody just gave up on raising and threw it away. Oh man, I guess I need to capture it because that's how I get all of my Pokemon."
I had the same thought. Ash is sitting there going, "Too bad I already have a Bulbasaur."
I know.
And I don't do duplicates except for Tauros.
And that was a special circumstance. They're not even in regular
Right.
Pokeballs. So, and Missy's like, "So Tracy, why do you think it took Ash's Bulbasaur and Togepi?" And he's like, "Well, it must have been lonely down here all by itself." And it's like, "Oh, I made some friends down here." And Ash is like, "Man, you've had it pretty tough, haven't you, Bulbasaur?" And then he's looking down, and he notices the mayor's symbol on the Bulbasaur. And we jump straight from that over to Nurse Joy, basically cursing out the mayor. "You can't do what you're doing."
You can't do it! Mr. Mayor, you can't just send your personal little army around to seal up every single manhole in this city.
What's wrong with my plan? This is a perfect solution to the problem. We don't have to worry about exterminating the creature if we just close up the sewer system.
You can't! Those 3 kids are still down there. If you seal up the sewers, they'll never be able to get out.
No need to worry. I'll remove all the concrete as soon as the election is over.
But the election isn't until the beginning of next week. You can't leave them trapped down in that sewer until then.
That's not my problem. Children shouldn't be playing in the sewers in the first place.
I mean, fair. I mean,
but the fact that he says, so for all I know, there are no children down in that sewer. It's just like that just blows my mind that they would put this in a kid's cartoon. And Nurse Joy is like, "Oh my gosh, you are a monster." And we go straight from that to all the manholes are starting to pour through water from the pressure that's down there because now the water has nowhere to go. And the mayor is up inside of his nice little mansion, and he's taking a big, nice bath. And he's like, now that I've taken care of that creature problem, now I should have a landslide to win this re-election. Then all of a sudden you hear some rumbling. The screen starts to shake. And from here, the mayor's bath gets interrupted because his whole entire house starts backing up with water. And I'm going to hand this part over to you, brother.
And it's flowing through the house, and he's in his bathtub, and then we see
Surfing
Ash
Pikachu.
with
I'm so sorry. I just noticed Surfing Pikachu in this episode.
Well, if you're watching on Spotify, that might be the thumbnail. Do you watch a podcast? I suppose you do.
If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, which you should, by the way, go ahead and subscribe
Yeah,
on Spotify. I don't say that enough.
yeah. So we see the two Bulbasaurs, and we see Misty holding Togepi above the water, and there's Tracy, and then there's Surfing Pikachu, which is very much a blink and you miss it, but it is cute. And they bust out the doors, and the mayor somehow found a towel. I
they
don't know if the
they
towel was.
they can't have a naked man on a kid's television show.
He's probably got a teeny weeny as it is. Um,
He's got
and he's
a teeny weeny yellow
and,
Sorry.
and he's flying through the air. He's trying to cover his dignity, and he lands on the concrete. Um, the kids and um, Ash kind of looks at the at the at the monster, the Bulbasaur, and he was like, "We were wondering if you knew anything about this." And the camera pans over, and we see the Bulbasaur's collar, and the camera zooms in on the insignia, and
The mayor has
the
a
mayor kind of
flashback.
has this. Yeah, the mayor has this moment, and this pissed me off, and broke my heart at the same time. And he's got the Bulbasaur in a box, and he's, if you're not going to evolve, Fooey, and he literally puts the box in the water, and the Bulbasaur fucking floats downstream as a fucking clam, just being a Bulbasaur, and he just lets it go, and uh, you might argue that Bulbasaur should have had enough common sense to jump out, but
But no,
that's neither here nor.
Bulbasaur is doing what his trainer is telling him to do.
Yeah, it's the Charmander defense all over again.
Yep.
Gosh, starter Pokemon are kind of dull, aren't they? Um, and the mayor's kind of sitting there, and he was like, "That was years ago, and I hadn't thought about it since." And the Bulbasaur picks him up, with his vine, and he's got a smile on his face. And Misty's like, look at that. Even after what you did with it,
It still
he's
loves
still
you.
happy to see you. You're despicable, you naked old man, you. Um, and you know, the mayor kind of turns around, and then we see that there's a crowd of people because
People are interested and want to know
men
what's
don't
going on.
men don't tend to fly out of bathtubs, every day. And he's like, I can't let my constituents see me like this. And he screams for his SWAT team, and he was like, this Bulbasaur is endangering the mayor. And he gets indignant, and he was like, I'll have everybody here locked up, and they're like, and he's like, take out the Bulbasaur, and they fucking turn their bazookas on the poor innocent Bulbasaur.
Yes, they do.
The fuck. Well, obviously, Ash is like, all right, Pikachu, fucking get him, and Pikachu shocks him, and then Bulbasaur, Ash's Bulbasaur, I should say, he's like, Vine Whip, and he fucking, knocks the the SWAT team into next week, and
Which is perfect.
well, yeah, and then the mayor's Bulbasaur is like, "Oh, now you get yours," and he frickin' gives him the wind up toss,
And
and
Bulbasaur
he
just
goes.
tosses him into his own statue.
I was gonna say, I thought, yeah, and he goes and he kind of has a Tracy moment in the statue, and he's KO'd. We got the little X's for eyes. You know, and then Officer Jenny is like, thank you for
Thank you for
helping
helping
us figure
us.
out the situation. I'm sorry for the confusion, and the mayor was a crackpot, and all this and that. And Nurse Joy is like, we'll be happy to look after Bulbasaur, and see that he's well taken care of. And Ash is like that Bulbasaur fucking sewer. And um Ash is like, isn't there supposed to be a Pokemon gym, somewhere in this vicinity? And um Nurse Joy's like, yes, it's right over there, on that island. What's the name of it?
Trevita
Island. There's a ferry that um goes there once a day. It's like a half an hour ride or whatever. And Officer Jenny's like, well, I'll take you to the port right now.
I'll take you to the ferry. It leaves once a day to go over there.
The ferry. The ferry.
Yes.
The ferry. She's like, I'll take you over there right now. And then that's when the camera starts panning, and the narrator starts to take us out, but then we are reminded that, oh yeah, Team Rocket is still in the sewer, and they can see the sun,
but
they're like, yes, the warm rays of the sun that we'll never see again. And it's looking like, oh, is that going to be the end of Team? Right before the to be continued comes up, and it fades into another box, you hear Jesse sneeze, and
that's the
James
end
and
of the
Meowth
episode.
go, we're free. So no, everybody, Team Rocket does not stay in the sewer for the remainder of the series.
All right, so what would you end up giving this episode out of 5, Doug? I thought that this episode, I mean, yeah, it was kind of all over the place, and they had some illegal tactics in it, but I would give this episode I would give it a solid 3.
I'm at 2. I didn't care for it at all.
Okay.
I thought what the mayor did to the Bulbasaur was despicable. I thought that the SWAT team's lack of hesitance to fire on Team Rocket was ridiculous. The fact that they didn't blink and they were going to fire on that store.
You didn't care for that.
I didn't care for that. It's only getting a 2 because it was funny, and we could tell that the mayor was corrupt, but I can't in good conscience give it any more than that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I respect that. I'll give it a solid 3. I thought it was a decent story for what it was. No, I don't condone anything the mayor did, and thankfully they didn't harm any Pokemon in the filming of this episode. So
in the filming of this episode,
no Pokemon were harmed. But all right, well, that being said, this episode is kind of coming to a close. So do you have anything else to add for this episode, Doug?
No, I don't. It's kind of nice to kind of pull the old, um, back to back, and it's nice to be on the other end of it. So yeah.
All right. Well, that being said, go ahead and give your goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you we will be back for another episode probably at this point in 2 weeks, everybody. So I will see you. We will see you guys back in 2 weeks. There will not be a new episode next week as of right now, just due to scheduling, but we will be back. So have a good night, and we will see you then.